Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor. Welcome to the show. I'm still working out some audio glitches, so bear with us, but I have two amazing guests here, and I want to break down this topic of Angelina Jolie versus Brad Pitt. Welcome back to the show, Steph the Alter Nerd and Mr. Christopher Melcher, attorney at law. How are you guys doing?
Gucci. Not bad.
Doing great.
Good. Sorry, I have everything so stellar, but I think you guys are a little lower up. I know you guys are working on it. Apologies, but I know you can hear them. I'll turn myself down a little bit. Hopefully you can boost up you guys. But it's just a tech problem. It'll take me 20 minutes to fix. I'd rather keep our live going. But I want to talk about this topic of Brad versus Angie. So Christopher, I'm glad to have you here. I know this is a tough one to talk about because I experience the Angelina fans online can be pretty aggressive. And I don't really want to go against her or Brad. What's so frustrating, I think you said it when we talked about this before. Why is this taking so long is the big question. It's been over 6 years, which seems massively extreme. For the sake of the kids, it just seems like someone should give, and whoever gives first to me is the better person in all this, because at some point you just gotta let it go, let it go. And as a divorce lawyer, I imagine you agree. There's a certain point where you watch your clients just spending and spending and spending. Is it really good for the kids and everybody involved to elongate it for 6 long years the way this is currently going?
No, absolutely not. I mean, all divorces are difficult for a child or children to see their parents go through that conflict. Even in the best circumstances, the children are going to be impacted by it. But for it to go on for 6 years is completely unnecessary. There's no legitimate reason why any custody battle would take that long. And here, I understand she has concerns about whatever happened on this plane, but again, that's 6 years ago, 2016. No allegations of any problems in the last 6 years. And so I think, at some point, hey, you got to let it go. They also have to weigh whatever benefit either party hopes to get out of this custody litigation against the harm that's certainly going to be caused to the children by going through the battle. So, sometimes the like they say with cancer, that the treatment is worse than the cure. So, is this really worthwhile? I can't see it. And particularly when you have children of a high profile couple, in a kind of normal divorce, friends and family know that the divorce is happening and that's about it. But here, the world knows the divorce is happening. These children need to experience this through all the social media and commentary, including this that's going on right now. And it's very hurtful. So I have criticism for both sides in that they've been unable to resolve this. But on the other hand, sometimes they're not equally bad. Sometimes there's one that's really bad. There's one parent that drives the conflict, has a need for it, where the other party's trying to avoid it. And sometimes you do got to stand your ground and can't just give on every issue.
So I want to get to this update because I had a couple questions, and I'm glad you're here because look, this FBI document, we talked about this yesterday. There's an FBI document that leaked that I guess came out, and Brad's team is saying Angelina's trying to inflict the most pain ever by reviving this incident. It was investigated. There were no charges brought. Of course, a source close to Brad says. And as I do my due diligence to look into this, seems like he's telling the truth. Seems like there really isn't much else to say about this. It happened. There were no charges. All parties agreed. We've moved on. It was 6 years ago. So now suddenly documents leaked with more information, almost seemingly like they want this out in the press so people actually know, all the details. And I just don't know how that's good for anybody involved. And so this document came out because Angelina Jolie, and we have a Politico piece here I wanted to go through. A few years ago, they sort of identity of Jane Doe was hidden, but a lot of people suspected this might be Angelina. Well, now Puck has exclusively revealed that, yes, it was indeed Angelina Jolie who sued the FBI because I guess it's the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, so it's federal. So therefore, there was a FBI were involved in this case since it happened in airspace. And so they did this investigation, had their document come out, all the information, and then Angelina wasn't happy, I guess. Felt like something screwy happened or somehow the FBI was in cahoots with Brad. So she went and sued the FBI to get all the intelligence. Now, this is pretty rare. No, Christopher? Like, this is weird to me. How often is someone able to sue the FBI that quickly and use their pull, because Angelina has a lot of pull with the government always doing stuff. Is this a normal thing for a celebrity like this to be able to like, sorry, FBI, I'm suing you with my high-powered lawyers. We want all the documentation. Am I crazy in seeing this as sort of a very bizarre and not usual type of circumstance?
Well, it's very unusual. So this incident, I think the plane was on the ground, but nevertheless, the FBI has jurisdiction over any crimes that occur on aircraft. And so that's why the FBI was involved. There was an allegation of an assault that occurred on the aircraft. So, hey, they're going to investigate. And the Department of Justice would be the ones bringing charges, and no charges were filed by the Department of Justice. Also, Department of Child and Family Services, like Child Protective Services in LA County, had investigated and determined that there was no basis to believe that any child abuse occurred. So they didn't take any action either. Now, what Angelina Jolie did is file a Freedom of Information Act request with the Department of Justice and the FBI, asking them to reveal all publicly available information regarding this investigation. She's claiming that wants to know or understand why charges were not filed. And she was unhappy with the information that was provided and pursued her rights under law to saying like, hey, I think that there's more information available under FOIA, and she wants that revealed, and that's the basis of the lawsuit. Fine. What's odd about it is that she files under a pseudonym, Jane Doe versus Department of Justice in federal court, and says that if her identity were revealed, that harm would come to her and the children. And she also wanted the entire thing sealed. Again, very odd off the bat, because the only availability she has for this information is under the Freedom of Information Act. She has the same exact legal standing that any of us as individuals in the United States would have. If it's public information held by a government agency, you can ask for it. You don't have to be a victim or perpetrator or witness to get that info. So why would it justify filing it under a pseudonym or sealing it? The federal court said, I'm not sealing this action, but did protect her identity by calling her Jane Doe. And I've looked at that order, and it's unmistakable that it's about her. It's talking about somebody who claims that she was injured on an aircraft in 2016, and it's the description of that order. It can only be talking about her. And so even if it was proper to protect her identity, as the court found it was, when this was filed, it's no longer proper to do so now, because this is an open secret. Everybody knows that she's Jane Doe, and there's no reason to protect her identity. And there's also no reason to protect information here that would be revealed under the Freedom of Information Act, because we all have the same freedom of getting that information. So I'm bothered by the lack of access to a public court proceeding. And I'm also bothered by the fact that she's allowed to participate in this action under a pseudonym, claiming that she needs all this protection. But now the FBI document is apparently in the hands of a media source. Who would have done that? Brad Pitt wouldn't have wanted that information out there. He's been totally quiet this whole time. And this is embarrassing to him and his family. He would not be the one wanting this. So the inference is that Angelina or her camp are the ones that leaked this information, that they claim that if this information got out there, that she would be harmed by. So doesn't add up on really any level in my mind.
Yeah, because there's a lot of these weird, sorry, I will remind as we do that. There's a lot of weird details in this that we didn't see before, and now they're coming more and out over the course of these past couple of days with just stuff Brad's saying about the kids. And I don't really get into it because it's none of my damn business, and charges weren't filed. But as we look at some of these sort of headlines that are out there from the Daily Mail, et cetera, they're definitely trying to paint him as, a bad dad. And it's just troubling because it's like, it does feel like they're airing the dirty laundry in the media in this elongated custody battle, which is still going on. Go ahead. It seemed like you were going to say something.
Well, the thing is that I put no weight on that. Show me the FBI report and then I'll put weight on that. But it's an anonymous source leaking portions of a report that we're all supposed to expect or believe, oh yeah, that's what the report says. The report, we don't have the report. And anything in the report by law enforcement would just be reciting what Angelina told them. So it doesn't make it true. And this is what I hate about leaks, and I hate about some of this reporting, is that all of a sudden now headlines, Brad called the child this, Brad did this. No, he didn't. That all we would know potentially is that Angelina told an FBI agent something,
Right.
and the FBI agent wrote that down in a report, and maybe that report says what she told the FBI agent. It doesn't make it true to repeat it and say it 2 or 3 times.
That's a really good point to reiterate, because you're right. Because even I'm sort of not thinking clearly, but it's the Johnny Amber situation again, where it's like Amber wanted the doctor's notes to come in as if this was missing evidence that they keep trying to claim in the media as, oh, the missing evidence that's going to win the appeal because the judge wouldn't allow the doctor to put in these damning claims. But the damning claims were Amber telling a doctor something. That doesn't mean it's true at all. So completely valid to understand, even as we see these quotes, which seem not great. The reality is this is what Angelina clearly would have reported to the FBI. And that's what now is being leaked and being reported all over the place to sort of give her a leg up in the custody hearings. Is that what you suspect this was, a PR stunt in this elongated battle? I mean, we have a quote here from Brad in People saying they're trying to inflict the most amount of pain by reviving this. Brad Pitt's sources are out there trying to get rid of this. But what are the motivations of a person to take up court time and public resources in filing an anonymous FIO request for material that they had for years? There's only one: to inflict the most amount of pain on an ex. There's no benefit to this. It is harmful to the children and the entire family for this to be made public. Look, I mean, I got to say, the source is correct in this. I don't understand what this is proving or how this is helping Angelina or why Brad would have leaked this in any shape or form. It's a really weird move. So what is your suspicion then? Is this a PR battle that Angelina or someone on Angelina's team is potentially trying to do?
That's all it is. And you got to remember that divorce case, and then turned into a custody case, went on from 2016 until this day. They're divorced, but they still got custody issues. And that information, whatever happened on the plane, whatever she believes happened, she told Judge Outerkirk, who was appointed by consent of both parties to serve as the judge. And that judge, who also officiated over their wedding, which was kind of odd, but he turned out to officiate their divorce too, heard her evidence and eventually warned her to saying, you got to knock this off. And if you don't, allow Brad to have more access with these children, that the court could take her custody away. Shot over the bow. And once Judge Outerkirk did that, she went against Judge Outerkirk successfully and had him removed from the case. And so now it's going to be in the hands of a public court that's just, languishing, because when you have the custodial time that you want with your kids, you have no interest in pushing that case forward. You de facto have what you want already. The other side needs to get their time. And so if Brad's the one who needs to prosecute the case and move it forward, Angelina has no interest, because going to court could mean her losing more time. So she could slow play this potentially until additional children age out, become more than 18 and there's no jurisdiction over them anymore. Now, so I don't buy that there's anything in here that's going to help her legal case, because the judge already heard it, and also the custody evaluator, Stan Katz, appointed as a custody evaluator in this case, very experienced guy. And we don't know what he said because that is confidential by law. But what we do know is that Angelina has made a licensing board complaint against him. And now he is being investigated by the licensing board in California. And so my inference is that she didn't like what he had to say either about her parenting decisions. And he would have had this same information and saying, whatever happened, but how does that justify what we're going to share time with the kids now? It doesn't really relate. So everyone, that's gone against her is now, including the Department of Justice and FBI, is now, going to be criticized.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge red flag. And what's crazy is, like, I have no dog in this fight. I like both actors as actors. I don't know them as people. However, as I've seen more and more about this, it does feel like the press is just Team Angelina. They're constantly just trying to railroad Brad in the press. Angelina's got a really vicious group of fans online who will just go after anybody who questions this case. And to me, it's like, look, you've said it before, and I'll say it again. They're both, in a way, just like idiots. Like, let this go. Whatever deal has been on the table, Brad should just take. Just agree to whatever terms he could have had. But then I wonder, are there even terms that she has put out there? It just seems like she is making this more complicated on every step of the process. And to see her now assuming that the FBI is in cahoots, the child custody person is in cahoots, like all these people are incorrect, and that she's right. Something's now off. Like, look, Brad may not have been perfect. Brad may have had a really bad flight. Brad may have been drinking, right? Brad may have said some things he regrets. It's all possible. However, at a certain point, 6 years later, you're not together anymore. You got to move on. You got to, like, for the sake of the kids, try to have a united front to raise these kids. And it doesn't sound like she even wants them there. She wants to go scorched earth to remove him. It's really just sad the more I see this. And I want to go against the curve and make sure that we are reporting the other side of this, because I don't see, it's nice to see people actually do address this. In fact, there's a quote here. This is not a factual document. This is exactly what you said, Christopher. This is what she claimed happened. It was investigated and there were no charges brought. It's standard for these types of things to not be released. Furthermore, he says, generally, Pitt's in a good headspace considering the frustrations of these circumstances. It's wave after wave of attempts to hurt him. He has remained virtually completely silent other than to acknowledge things he could do better. He has remained silent on this issue because he knows that's the best thing for the kids. What's also interesting is it's his kids. I'm going to come back to that in a second. What's best for everybody, he has maintained that stance despite a never-ending barrage of attacks and attempts made to use the courts against him. Jolie has not publicly spoken about the details of the incident. But what's interesting is and I think, is this the article you sent me, Steph? I love this too. Brad Pitt and Angelina. Brad told Angelina one of her children looked like a blah, 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 blah. She was ruining the family on a private jet, which saw him clash with her son, Maddox. Like, it all reads in this weird language that the press is clearly Team Angelina, but also seemingly trying to make it like Brad's not their father. Like, it's not Brad's son. Doesn't this bother you, Christopher, when you read this? Like, if anything, it should say his son, Maddox, right? I mean, like, what is going on here?
Yeah, and it's that's always a thing that we see in these family law disputes when it's like my child. It's like, no, it's our child. And, it's revealing. But again, it's not like Angelina wrote that. And so I don't want to attribute that statement to her. But what I think is been hard with, Brad has really been silent. He is really not engaged publicly with any of this, which I appreciate. I think that's generally the right thing to do. I think he's handled this in a dignified way, but then it leaves the story to be told only by one side. Yep. And so again, I try not to blame the media for something they're not responsible for. It's like, hey, they're reporting what they're being told, and they're getting leaks from one side or statements directly from one side, and then the other side's, just saying, hey, we're not talking out of court. So that's where I think, the story has become one-sided. And, but, here as of late, we're seeing that statement being attributed to his side saying, hey, she's trying to inflict pain. And he is fighting back in court. We, got the winery issue with Miraval in France. And, that's a very bitter dispute. And it's not something he can walk away from. She left him with a unwanted business partner. She sold her interest outright to somebody else, who's, has a share of this Stoli brand that without any consent or involvement of Brad. So, basically leaving him with a co-owner. And I know I've seen some people say online, well, just get over it and just deal with it. And it's like, no, that would be like your spouse selling his or her half of your house to your enemy or somebody you have no interest in being involved in and just saying, just accept that. No, you can't. You can't. I mean, unless you just walk away from the house, you're now in co-ownership with somebody you don't want to be a co-ownership in. And that's exactly what she did to him.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And I'm glad you're here to sort of help break it on this, because it is important. I think we get this story out there because there's a lot of spin happening. And I got to give Brad credit for not being as vicious as perhaps he could. The fact that he is holding back for the sake of the kids and not out there in the press leaking things. I mean, look, we don't know what Angelina's doing. I don't want to accuse her either, but where else would this come from? Can't imagine there's people on Angelina's team that are doing things without her approval. And so it does feel like there's just a constant barrage of waves against Brad and just refusal to come to an end point in this, which is incredibly frustrating. So I appreciate that insight. Any other final words on this, Christopher?
No, I mean, hope that they put their differences aside. And, it's just, like I say, most of the celebrity divorce cases, and these are things that I handle, they do it quietly. We hear about the case at the end. We don't even know that they've broken up, publicly. And we hear, oh, they've broken up, and all of a sudden, and they've settled everything, and they're, conscious uncoupling stuff. And they do that to protect their brand. And because they realize, even though they may hate each other, that they need to do this to preserve their image and not have this public feud for their kids. And in a way, have been a role model for the rest of us as to how we need to handle our disputes. Do it quietly, with dignity, outside of court. But then you have very few, but a couple of these examples where they just can't do it. And it is toxic. It is hurtful to both of them. So, hey, I wish both of them the best. I don't want to take sides. I even assume whatever she says happened on the plane happened. But it's just like, at some point you got to move forward.
Well, there you go. That was an insane show. I think I speak for everybody when, for real, I know I say it a lot. It's like The Bachelor, where it's the most shocking Bachelor ever. No, this was the most insane show we've done in a long time. A lot of characters, a lot of craziness. You're not going to miss it. And cake pie? Yeah, that's right. Cake pie. And Paige is just dying to try it. So learn all about the cake pie and so much more here on the show. There it is. For this amazing show. If you missed it, what are you doing? Catch us live, or just hit that join button and become part of the community. You can become a tier, become a member, and then you'll be able to watch it anytime you want in our members only playlist. So grateful to all our amazing supporters. Thanks so much to Steph the Alter Nerd for being here, as well as Christopher Melcher being here earlier. What a show we had, which will be clipped. All this won't be seen unless you watched it live or you remember. If you made it this far, write in the comments. Yes, I was here, Andy. Phil, thank you, my man. Zayden, Storm, Paige, Vaughn, and all the other callers. You guys are amazing. Love you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, I think. And make sure you go check out Nerd Report next. Even though he's streaming now against me? Is there a beef? What's going on? Head on over to Nerd Report and start the beef. Appreciate you guys so much. And we'll see you guys tomorrow here on Popcorn Planet.